Your doctor has probably run your cholesterol, your CRP, maybe even your troponin, and none of those numbers actually tell you how long you're going to live. There's one marker that does, and the wild part is that nobody set out to find it. GDF-15, Growth Differentiation Factor 15. You've almost certainly never heard of it. Your doctor has probably never tested you for it. And yet, right now, the research community is calling it one of the most powerful predictors of all-cause mortality ever identified, and it outperforms basically every marker you already know about. This video is going to break down exactly what this molecule is, why it works the way it does, and what a specific number in your blood could actually mean for how long you're going to be around. And I'll tell you right now, the reason this marker predicts death across so many totally unrelated diseases is something almost nobody in longevity content has figured out yet. That answer's coming, but first you need to understand how weird this molecule actually is. GDF-15 is a stress-responsive cytokine, meaning it's a signaling molecule your cells release when they're under pressure. But here's the thing. Nobody discovered it while looking for a longevity marker. Researchers first found it in inflamed and injured tissue. They thought they were studying a pain signal. They stumbled through the wrong door entirely, and what they found on the other side ended up being one of the most predictive molecules in all of biology. It's produced when cells experience mitochondrial dysfunction, DNA damage, oxidative stress, inflammation, or hypoxia. So it's not tied to one disease, it's tied to cellular distress itself, which is exactly why it shows up everywhere. And it has a few other names that make it even stranger. One of its aliases is MIC1, macrophage inhibitory cytokine 1. It was originally characterized partly as a placental protein, something the placenta produces during pregnancy. During pregnancy, the placenta produces GDF-15 in large quantities, and levels can rise to a median of up to 19,311 picograms per milliliter, then fall again after birth. So this thing that predicts your mortality is also the same molecule surging through pregnant women. That's how strange this marker is. It doesn't fit into a clean box. Now, here's where it gets genuinely fascinating, and this is the part that almost nobody talks about. GDF-15 doesn't just float around in your blood doing nothing. It talks directly to your brain. It binds a specific receptor called GFRAL, and for years, scientists knew that receptor existed but had no idea what activated it. GDF-15 has potent anti-obesity effects, but its receptor was unknown. GFRAL has now been identified as the receptor that mediates GDF-15's effects via central actions in the brainstem. The lock existed before anyone found the key. That's rare in biology. And where exactly does that receptor live? The highest expression of GFRAL has been detected in neurons of the brainstem area postrema and nucleus of the solitary tract in mice and humans. Now, the area postrema is one of the only regions in your entire brain that sits outside the blood-brain barrier, meaning it's directly exposed to whatever is circulating in your blood. Your body basically built a hotline between your bloodstream and your brainstem, and GDF-15 is one of the molecules with a direct dial. When your cells are under serious stress, this molecule floods your blood, hits that unprotected brainstem receptor, and your brain gets the message immediately. And what does your brain do with that message? This signaling activates neurons in the parabrachial nucleus, likely initiating a neuronal circuit involving the central amygdala and eventually leading to meal termination and nausea. Your body is essentially triggering an aversion response, a biological stop everything alarm, which brings us to something you've probably actually heard of. If you've followed the Ozempic conversation at all, you know GLP-1 drugs cause nausea while suppressing appetite. GDF-15 does almost the exact same thing, but through a completely separate system that evolved independently. Two parallel aversion pathways built by your body for different reasons, producing nearly identical effects. And this connects directly to metformin, the diabetes drug that's become something of a longevity obsession in certain circles. Here's the part that surprised even researchers. GDF-15 independently predicts cardiovascular mortality, cancer risk, and all-cause mortality better than most conventional markers. And it turns out metformin works, at least in part, by raising GDF-15 levels. The weight loss and appetite suppression that people experience on metformin, a significant chunk of that effect runs straight through this molecule. That's not a theory. That's been shown by blocking the pathway in mice and watching the appetite-suppressing effect disappear entirely. So, your body has a stress hormone that talks to your brain, suppresses appetite, predicts death across dozens of relocated diseases, and is being activated by one of the most talked about longevity drugs on the planet. And here's the beat that really lands. GDF-15 rises progressively with aging as cellular stress accumulates, and has emerged as one of the most powerful longevity biomarkers identified, independently predicting all-cause mortality, cardiovascular death, cancer incidence, and frailty in large prospective studies. And then there's the athlete paradox, and this one the field genuinely hasn't settled. Prolonged endurance exercise raises circulating GDF-15 to levels that would otherwise be associated with serious illness. A marathon runner finishing a race can have GDF-15 numbers that look, on paper, like someone in pathological distress. Scientists are still actively debating whether that's a beneficial adaptive signal, a harmless side effect of exertion, or something worth worrying about. The honest answer right now is nobody fully knows. And I think that's important to say out loud, because most longevity content pretends every finding is clean and settled. This one isn't. Now, remember that open question from the beginning? Why does this marker predict death across so many completely unrelated conditions? Heart failure, kidney disease, cancer, sepsis, even arthritis. Here's the answer. Unlike many inflammatory markers, GDF-15 integrates multiple upstream cellular stress signals into a single readout, making it a sensitive and specific measure of overall biological aging rate. It doesn't care what's causing the stress. It just measures whether your cells are under pressure. That's why it shows up in every disease. It's not a disease marker. It's a cellular distress marker. And cellular distress is the common thread underneath almost everything that kills us. Which brings us to the number. GDF-15 is a stress-responsive cytokine, strongly associated with aging, multimorbidity, and cardboard disease, though its role in the general population is still being defined. But researchers have already identified a threshold in population-based cohort studies, around 1,081 picograms per milliliter, that separated survivors from non-survivors. Think about how we treat cholesterol today. We have a number. We know what side of it we want to be on. GDF-15 is heading in the same direction. And unlike cholesterol, which tells you something specific about one system, few other single biomarkers are so closely linked to the biological aging process and overall physiological stress. GDF-15 outperformed established scoring systems for mortality prediction, beating out heart failure markers, inflammation markers, and cardiac injury markers that most people in this space have actually heard of. The marker nobody talks about beats the ones everyone gets tested for. So, here's where we landed. GDF-15 was discovered by accident in injured tissue. It turned out to be a cellular distress signal with its own diagnosed brainstem receptor. That receptor sits in an unprotected part of your brain that's directly exposed to your bloodstream. When GDF-15 rises, your brain gets an immediate alarm signal. It predicts death across unrelated diseases because it measures cellular stress itself, not any one condition. It's connected to metformin, to Ozempic-style mechanisms, and to endurance exercise in ways science is still working through. And there's a real threshold number that researchers are already using to separate risk groups in the general population. If you've been tracking your health with the usual suspects, cholesterol, CRP, maybe blood pressure, and feeling like something important was missing, this is probably it. Drop a comment below. Has your doctor ever tested your GDF-15? I'm genuinely curious how many people watching this have actually seen this number on a lab report, because I'd bet it's almost nobody. And if this kind of deep dive into the markers that actually matter is what you're here for, the next video is going to blow the doors off everything you think you know about inflammation testing, because most of what gets ordered is the wrong test entirely. Go watch that one next.